Back with another review for the Keanu-thon, and today talking about reviewing the 1994 action flick, Speed. Yeah, definitely classic, which stars Keanu Reeves. You also have Sandra Bullock in the film, Dennis Hopper, directed by Jan de Bont, which, this guy didn't go on to direct much. He directed this film, which is great, Twister, which is entertaining. Then after Twister, he directed this. I don't know what happened here, but I'll be talking about that. Um, I know he directed the Tomb Raider sequel with Joe Lee, and he was also a cinematographer for, I believe, The Hunt for Red October, Basic Instinct, Lethal Weapon 3. But get into the plot of this film. In the beginning, you have our main character, Jack Traven, who is played by Keanu Reeves, and he's a, bomb specialist, as part of the SWAT team, him and his partner, Jeff Daniels. And you have this mad bomber who is played by Dennis Hopper, this character Howard Payne, and he attempts to hold this elevator full of people hostage for ransom, but they stop him. So later on, for revenge, our villain, Dennis Hopper, plants a bomb on this bus, and you have Sandra Bullock on this bus as one of the passengers, and that's when Keanu gets involved. And of course, as we know, the bus has to stay above 50 miles, per hour, or the bomb will blow. So Keanu has to stop the bomb and stop Dennis Hopper, and Sandra Bullock, takes the wheel, and off we go. And that's the plot, as we know, in a nutshell. Straightforward plot. And like I said, it's a great action movie, kick-ass. It's a 90s classic. I would say my favorite Keanu Reeves film. And, you know, as for the casting of Keanu Reeves, like, at first they wanted Stephen Baldwin. Stephen Baldwin? Which, but yeah, he was the first choice for Jack Craven. It says right here, I wrote down some notes. But he declined the offer because he felt the character, as written in an early version of the script, was too much like John McClane, character from Die Hard. And this is according to the writer Graham Yost. They had also considered Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson. Director ultimately cast Keanu as Jack Traven after seeing him in Point Break. He felt that the actor was vulnerable on screen. He's not threatening to men because he's not that bulky, and he looks great to women. Reeves had dealt with LA, Los Angeles Police Department before on Point Break, and learned about their concern for human life, which he incorporated into, his character. The director did not want Jack Traven to have long hair and wanted the character to look strong and in control of himself. To that end, Reeves shaved his head almost completely. The director remembers that everyone at the studio was scared shitless when they first saw it. What you see in the movie is actually grown in. And Reeves, spent 2 months at Gold's Gym in LA to get in shape for the role. But, getting to Keanu Reeves, I thought he was great here. Great as our lead character. And you cared about what happened next. You cared about, and you bought, you bought into this character. And, and I know people kind of go back and forth, sometimes of, this or Point Break. I prefer this movie. I prefer this more because it's more of a straightforward action. And, I love Sandra Bullock in the film and Dennis Hopper. But, yeah, Keanu Reeves is great. Sandra Bullock as our character Annie, who's a passenger on the bus, and the bus driver gets shot. And the scene where, Keanu gets on the bus, and this one guy attempts to, he pulls out his gun, and, chaos happens, and the driver gets shot. And that's where Sandra Bullock takes over, the wheel. But Sandra Bullock, my favorite actress, and she's great here as Annie, and likable character, and having control of this bus, And as far as like the casting of Annie, it says right here, for the character of Annie, Yost said that they initially wrote the character as African American and as a paramedic as to justify how she would be able to handle driving a speeding bus through traffic. The role was offered to Halle Berry, but she declined, which would have been interesting because later on Halle Berry and Keanu would be in John Wick Chapter 3. Um, Later, the character had been changed to a driver's education teacher and made the character more of a comic relief sidekick to Jack, with Ellen DeGeneres in mind for the part. Instead of Annie, Annie became both Jack's sidekick and later love interest, leading to the casting of Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock came to Reeves for Speed with Reeves to make sure that it was the right chemistry between the two stars. She recalls that they had to do all these really physical scenes together, rolling around and on the floor and stuff. But Sandra Bullock, it would have been interesting to see Halle Berry, how she would have done. Or maybe she was busy working on the Flintstones at this time. But Sandra Bullock, she was right for the role. She was right for the part. And, which of course later on Keanu and Sandra would do The Lake House, which I don't mind that flick. But, they had good chemistry here throughout the film, and Sandra Bullock was right for the part, and likable character, Annie. She wasn't annoying, so, yeah, no complaints there. And, of course, you have Jeff Daniels in the film as Jack's partner, Harry, which, funny enough, he played a character, Harry, in Dumb and Dumber that same year. So, when you look at it, yeah, 1994 was a big year for Jeff Daniels because this was a hit and Dumb and Dumber was a hit. So, but getting back to what I was saying, I like this character Harry. The one thing that I don't, like his character being killed off, the scene where they go into the house, like Howard Payne's house. So I'm like, that's the part I don't really care for. That I think they should have just, not killed, Jeff Daniels' character. That's just one little nitpick. But I still like Jeff Daniels in the film. You have Joe Morton as the chief. Other appearances in the film. You have Alan Ruck as one of the passengers. Yeah, Cameron Fry from Ferris Bueller. It's like, okay, there's Cameron Fry, on the bus. But, and of course, you have to talk about Dennis Hopper as Howard Payne. He's a great villain. Of course, from Blue Velvet. And funny enough, him and Keanu did River's Edge together. And he would go to be in, as King Koopa in Super Mario Brothers, and later on in Waterworld, which is, he was crazy in that. But, Dennis Hopper, again, was great here as a villain. And, around this time between Super Mario Brothers and Waterworld, Dennis Hopper was having fun playing villains. And he was great at that part. But, yes, a great villain. And a really good cast. And written by Graham Yost. Almost said roast. Written by Graham Yost. And it says right here, the initial script, some information on that, the film would have been completely different. Actually, let me read it right here. The initial script would have the film completely occur on the bus. There was no initial scene, like elevator scene in the beginning. The bus would have been driven around Dodger Stadium due to the ability to drive around in circles, and would have culminated with the bus running into the Hollywood sign and destroying it. Upon finishing the script, the writer took his idea to Paramount Pictures, which expressed interest in greenlighting the film and chose John McTiernan due to his blockbuster films like Predator, Die Hard, and The Hunt for Red October. However, McTiernan eventually declined to do so, feeling the script was too much of a Die Hard retread, and suggested Jan de Bont, who agreed to direct because he had the experience of being, photography director for action movies like Die Hard and The Hunt for Red October. Despite a promising script, Paramount passed on the project, feeling audiences would not want to see a movie which takes place for 2 hours on a bus. So the director and the writer took the project to the studio, 20th Century Fox. which they also distributed, Die Hard. They worked on that. Fox agreed to greenlight the project on the condition that there was action sequences in the film other than the bus. Um, the director then suggested start the film off with a bomb on an elevator in the office building, as he had an experience of being trapped in an elevator, working on Die Hard. So they used the elevator opening scene to establish, Keanu's character as being clever enough to overcome the villain. Uh, then the writer then decided to conclude the film on a subway train to have a final plot twist not involving the action on the bus. So again, interesting information there. And I know, let's see, when did this come out? So the film came out in June of '94, and the budget was around, let's see, I wrote it down here on this. Okay, so the budget was 30 million, made 350 million. That's a big hit. The film made a lot of money when this came out in June of '94. Again, $30 million budget made 350 million. That's huge. And I think it won Academy Award for Best Sound and Sound Effects Editing. So yeah, I mean, again, this film was huge. But to also mention great action, great action sequences, where you get the scenes where he's trying to, defuse the bomb, and, where they have to go over the gap, because the road, there's construction, so she speeds up the bus to go over the gap. And then towards the end of the film, where things get, things really pick up and get tense, where, they have to keep the bus going at the airport, the whole sequences at the airport, and they use that trap door to get out, and the bus is still going. And I love that sequence. For people know what I'm talking about, with the door, and they get on the door, and getting towards the end with the subway, really good action sequences, and Dennis Hopper's comeuppance is great. Where his head gets knocked off by that light or whatever. Great comeuppance. And, great suspense. It keeps you on your edge of your seat. And, yeah, I mean, as far as talking about some of the features on the film, which I didn't, watch the features. But you do have a commentary by director Jan de Bont, commentary by screenwriter Graham Yost, and producer Mark Gordon. You also have a trivia track on the film, a speed takedown game, and a trailer. So, some decent features on the Blu-ray. This is the 20th anniversary Blu-ray. But, yeah, I mean, so, again, just great action scenes, kind of going back and forth here. But, great action, great suspense. Great characters. I mean, just great casting, great direction from Jan de Bont. And again, I don't know why this guy didn't go on to do much. And it's kind of unfortunate, because I'd like to have seen what else he could have done. And again, I don't know what happened here. When talking about this film, and I will talk about that. So I don't know if that was sort of the end of Jan de Bont. But I liked what he did here. And yeah, I mean, I would like to have seen more from that guy back in the day. What else he could have done with Keanu, what else he could have done with other, actors during this time. And Twister's entertaining, and it's like, so again, at the end of the day, Speed is an action classic, and it's a great, probably again my favorite Keanu Reeves film, and it's full of action, full of suspense, really good cast, Keanu, Sandra Bullock, very likable. And again, this is coming off of Demolition Man, and you can say in a way this is sort of, Sandra's break. I mean, she did this a year later doing the Net, she did the Net, and off from there. But, yeah, Jeff Daniels, Joe Morton, Dennis Hopper, But yeah, Speed, great action movie, definitely classic. And next, I'll be talking about this pile of heap. Speed 2, Cruise Control. Yeah. Stay tuned for that, and thank you for watching.